The Cubs fall again to the Cardinals. Late inning rallies cannot quite do it against the Redbirds at Busch Stadium. Today's Memorial Day. Cubs get a series in Milwaukee against the division lead Brewers and look to get back on track. That and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell. That's a great way of saying go Cubs go. And here is your invitation to our great channel. What do you say, everybody? My name's Anthony Pasquale with the Cubs Baseball Channel on Twitter at _underscore Pasquale3. Thank you guys for joining us to chop up a little Cubs baseball action. Unfortunately, have another loss to break down from last night as the Cubs dropped both against the Cardinals after Friday night's game was rained out. Saturday night's game did not go in the Cubs' favor, and they lost 7-6. And then yesterday, a 4-3 loss by virtue of the Redbirds. A tough series nonetheless. Weather was obviously a factor. Yesterday's game was delayed. Now the Cubs got out of town late, probably got to Milwaukee sometime early this morning. A lot of travel, and it's just not the perfect recipe for lining up a series against the team that you're chasing in the division. But that's what the Cubs are going to have to battle through this week against the Brewers. They've got Justin Steele on the mound tonight. We'll get to that a little bit later, but Cubs, obviously, it stings to lose any game, especially these close games that the Cubs keep mounting late rallies in. But the same issues keep arising. Honestly, the starting rotation has been good. Javier Assad was excellent last night, aside from two bad pitches to probably a future Hall of Famer in Paul Goldschmidt. He put two balls into the seats. He had a pair of home runs. The bullpen was good. Drew Smiley, his first inning of work since being back from injury, looked good. Porter Hodge has faced 8 batters in the MLB and struck out 6 of them. That 75% strikeout rate, according to Tony Andracki, would obviously lead the MLB and be an MLB record if he kept that going for a full season. But nonetheless, Porter Hodge has been really good. The issue has been the offense. The offense has started slow. They've struggled against starting pitching. They've mounted some late rallies against pretty good relievers, but have been unable to get the big hit. You look 2 nights ago, the Cubs had the go-ahead and tying run on base when they made the final out. I believe it was Christopher Morel the other night. Yesterday, it was Seiya Suzuki lining one into the gap. A little bit too much air under it, and St. Louis was able to put it away for out number 3 before the Cubs could go and take the lead. The Cubs had an 8th and 9th inning rally fall short. In the 8th inning, the Cubs had bases loaded with Nico Horner at the dish, and he grounded out to second base after Christopher Morel had been hit by a pitch. Yan Gomes just missed a homer in that inning. I believe it was Cody Bellinger who was robbed of a looping single with a nice diving catch out in center field. So the Cubs just had a few breaks not go their way. But the fact of the matter is when the Cubs get bases loaded or get first and second in the 8th and 9th inning and they need a hit, they need somebody to come through, put the ball in play, and move the base runners along, get a run home. They have just struggled to find that hit. And it's been going on for, honestly, about a month. May has been bad for the Cubs offensively. And aside from this guy, Ian Happ, looked like his old self a little bit yesterday, hit 2 home runs, drove in all 3 of the Cubs' runs scored, providing all the offense for Chicago. Impressively, he took a 100-mile-per-hour fastball straight away center field in the 9th inning to give the Cubs some life. A little bit later in the inning, Nick Madrigal and Mike Tauchman both had singles, setting Seiya Suzuki up with first and second. But Seiya Suzuki, since coming back from injury, he's been rough. Cody Bellinger, rough. Happ, obviously 2 homers yesterday, but he struggled. Swanson, the whole lineup is struggling. And when you have these runners in scoring position, these chances to break a game open or give your team a lead, there really isn't anybody on this Cubs team right now that you feel confident up there at the plate with a chance to put your team ahead. Morel had a few huge home runs a couple weeks ago to provide the Cubs some lone offense on quiet days, and it led to a couple of wins. He had a walk-off hit in a 1-0 game. He had a homer in New York that gave the Cubs a 1-0 lead. But he's been struck, like the whole lineup, top to bottom, Talkman, everybody. And we talked about it yesterday that maybe it's time to see what PCA can do back in the big leagues, or Brendan Davis, who's been raking, or even Alexander Canario, who's been hitting the ball well in Iowa. But the Cubs have a roadblock in the outfield. Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, and Cody Bellinger obviously play the outfield. And if you say, oh, well, PCA can play center and Cody Bellinger can just play first, what about Michael Busch? He doesn't have any options. You can't send him down. And Mike Talkman still deserves everyday looks in the lineup because he's been one of the Cubs' more consistent hitters as of late, especially during this tough stretch. The other issue that I have is that the Cubs waited a week to bring up Luis Vasquez when when Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson were both hurt. They call him up when he's healthy. Dansby Swanson's activated and Nico Horner's back in the lineup. Now Luis Vasquez is just another bench spot rotting. He's not getting any playing time. He's only got one at bat in the week he's been called up. And when the Cubs really could have used that defense off the bench or a different bat instead of Madrigal or Mastrobuoni, he was in the minor leagues. So that whole situation was a little bit confusing to me, the way they handled it. I think Pete Crow Armstrong would be a better serviced piece on this roster right now than Luis Vasquez. I don't think they made a mistake calling up Luis Vasquez. I think he's major league ready, at least defensively. The issue is the week that they needed him, he was in Iowa. And now that they have him, he's rotting on the bench. And I don't think that's fair to Vasquez or a smart baseball move. But I want to get into this a little bit. The Cubs, I talked about how bad they've been offensively, but it's been especially bad early in games since May 12th. So that's now a little over 2 weeks. Since May 12th, the Cubs have been unable to score in the first 5 innings often. Only 3 times in the last 2 weeks have they scored a single run in the first 5 innings. That's how bad this offense has been. Now, I understand that they've ran into Paul Skeens twice, Jared Jones twice, Mitch Keller, Chris Sale, Max Fried, Reynaldo Lopez, obviously Sonny Gray yesterday. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to be a good team, if you want to contend, if you want to win the division, if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to go deep into the playoffs, you're going to have to get hits off of good pitching. And the Cubs just have not been able to do it lately. We thought that once Suzuki and Bellinger and Swanson and Horner returned from injury, that it would just a switch would flip and the offense would be fixed. It hasn't been. It's still been ugly. I don't know if you want to play with the lineup more. Is Seiya Suzuki going to drop down to the 5 hole? Maybe Ian Happ goes back up after 2 home runs. I'm not sure what the answer is, but right now the Cubs have no answer for any starting pitching these days, and it's been frustrating. But as they look forward to today, hopefully they can get back on track. It is Memorial Day. See, I got my red, white, and blue hat here. We at the Cubs Baseball Channel want to thank all the servicemen and women, past and present, for their service to our great country. We appreciate you guys. If you're here, get in the comment section so the rest of us can show you some love. But happy Memorial Day to all you guys watching. We do have a baseball game today. Cubs at the Brewers. They play at 3:10 Central Time. Justin Steele back on the mound for the Cubs. He's had a bumpy start to the season. Obviously, allowed 1 run in just under 5 innings opening day, then had the torn hamstring, or I guess hamstring strain, missed about a month, came back early May. The first start was good against the Padres. I think 4 shutout innings was what he delivered. And then since then, it's been a little bit rocky. Faced the Pirates twice and then the Braves, and he's gotten roughed up a little bit. A lot of clean innings, of course, and Justin's really good at pounding the strike zone, but he's been leaving a little bit too many balls up, which has resulted in a multitude of long balls. I think he's already given up 6 homers this season, and he did not reach that 6th homer plateau until deep in July of last season, and he's only about 4 or 5 starts into this season. So hopefully he can keep the ball in the ballpark, and when he's done that statistically in his career, there's been no starting pitchers better than him. He's been really good if he can limit the long ball. So if he could do that today, you got to feel good about the Cubs' chances against Robert Gasser, making his 4th start of the season. He's 2-0 with a 2.65 ERA. The Brewers have been known to just kind of crank out pitching and crank out guys that can win ball games. They obviously hold the lead at the top of this division. So this is a big week for the Cubs. 4 games against the Brewers today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, with a big chance to at least get back into the division race a little bit, but hopefully just for our sake, get back into the win column and score some runs before the 7th inning when you're already down 4-0. It's been extremely frustrating. Also, what was that call on Cody Bellinger in the 4th inning, trying to run from second to third, evading a tag in the baseline, and they called him out of the baseline? That one was a little bit confusing, but like I said, with the rain delay yesterday, Cubs probably just get into Milwaukee in the wee hours of the morning today and have to play a 4-game set against the team on top of the division. Hopefully, Justin Steele can show he's still got that Cy Young potential in him. Hopefully, we see a nice start out of the Cubs ace and Shota Imanaga, Ben Brown, and Jamison Tyone also due to pitch in this series. So, big series on deck. Happy Memorial Day to you all. We're all rooting for us to be able to fly this thing. Unfortunately, the Cubs on a 4-game losing streak, looking to stop that today. Jump in the comments section if you have a question or a comment. Fire it away. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. We'll make sure to interact with those. And as always, thank you guys for liking, subscribing, giving us a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, why don't you go ahead and do it? We love the Cubs. You love the Cubs. And we can continue dicing it up, chopping it up, and talking all things Cubs right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. If any roster moves or anything breaks, Mick and I will be right back here to bring you all the action. But the Cubs do have a game today, and we'll be back talking to you guys tomorrow, hopefully breaking down a Cubs win. As always, this has been the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.